All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us again on this episode of Black Tea. Um, and I would like to say, excuse me for not being on camera, but I'm just not able to right now. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off with courting a lie. And the question came to my mind when I was listening to the relationship segment that Minister Minister Sharif does every Saturday, and they were asking a question about how do you stay in tune or know when you're not in tune with your spouse. And thinking about being in tune, I thought about a piano when it's out of tune, it has to be tuned up. And that means that it doesn't sound right, it's not pleasing to the ear. So I thought about that in the sense where when we're courting a lie, how do we stay in tune with him in the aspect of courting a lie, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Oh, go ahead, Sister Faith.
Now I was just going to ask for clarity. The question is, how do we stay in tune with Allah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Well, I think that's a good question. And the first thing that came to my mind is thinking about who is in our midst, who is the messenger, Allah's messenger in our midst. And I think that's one of the ways that we stay in tune, because we are supposed to stay in tune with the time, and we're supposed to stay in tune with the word of Allah. But how will we know what is meant by the word of Allah unless we have a teacher to teach us it? Because we are not to really be interpreting his word, because we don't know his interpretation. And so Allah raises one in our midst to teach us the true meaning behind his words and to help us better understand it in the time and give us the proper context. So I think the best way to stay in tune is to keep our eyes on the man that he has given to us, and then from there, actually implementing what we're learning from the man in our midst. And I'm speaking of the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. So
Yes, ma'am.
learn from the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan and then implement what we learn. I think that will help us to stay in tune. And when we out of tune, prayer, and then picking up and listening to the lectures and reading the books, especially, and not even just from the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, but I could pick up Message to the Black Man and How to Eat to Live, and I literally feel like the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is speaking to me. I feel like Master Farah Muhammad, Allah, God, is speaking to me because I know those words came from Allah, God.
Yes, ma'am. And that brought to my mind about not even just the being in tune part, but the tone of being in tune. So hearing the minister's voice is like a tone and keeping us in tune with what he receives from Allah. So yes, ma'am. Thank you for that.
Can you elaborate on that? Sorry, Sister Faith, but can you elaborate on that about the tone?
Because like the piano I spoke about needing to be in tune, and there's a certain tone that it has to have. The keys, the different keys, if it's out of tune, then the sound is off. So if we're out of tune with the lie, then we're off somewhere in our life. We might be off in our relationships. We might be off with ourselves, just feeling down and not being in prayer. That's a sort of a tone to me as well. Because I often think about, why do we pray out loud and not silently? And I guess that's another tone that I'm thinking about as well, where you can hear yourself praying, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And I just want to point out that all of the prayers are not to be done in silence. We do Fajr and we do Isha out loud. We had to do I yeah, I think Maghrib prayer is also in silent. Now I'm messing that up. Cause some,
Right. Yes, man. I was just, yeah. And I wasn't even saying that to say that, to be specific about what prayers are said out loud or silent, but to just say that, to hear the prayer that you're praying, it is pleasing to the ear.
yes, ma'am, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, that's really interesting. When you asked the question, my mind didn't go that route in terms of being, you know, being in tune with the minister or anything like that, because I looked at it in a personal way, and it could be because of everything that I'm reading and stuff like that. But to stay in tune with Allah, I think that it comes with building up our own personal will and being able to be consistent, similar to what we were saying last week, because I think that the only way to really stay in tune is to remain consistent. And if that's studying, praying, or whatever it is that we may do on a personal level to maintain our relationship, but that's a way to stay in tune. And then also to self-reflect, because similar to what you said, Sister Lorez, about a piano, like if it's out of tune, then how do we know it's out of tune? You have to play it. So when it comes to us, we know we're out of tune. One, we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to constantly be in a position to reflect on ourselves and analyze ourselves and be able to critique ourselves not in a harsh way, but in an honest way. So that's how I believe is one way to stay in tune with Allah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Did you have anything else to add, Sister Destiny?
No, I don't. I think that was beautiful. I don't have anything else.
Yes, ma'am. We can move on.
Okay, so yes, ma'am, we are having a shorter podcast, so we are not going into maintaining peace today. We are going right into come on, sis.
All righty, so come on, sis. Now, this is from actually took
Ooh, Sister Faith.
yes.
I think I have a question I think should be asked right impromptu.
Go, go, go.
So because the word that came to my mind as I concluded that was adjustment. So in terms of Sister Loret's question and being in tune with Allah, how do we know that we're in tune with Allah when there's so many adjustments that can happen day to day? And as we know, we had a huge adjustment today. So, or I would say more than today, but today. But how do we stay in tune with Allah, even with all of the adjustments coming our way? Especially when you think you have a plan and you think you know where you're going, and then all of a sudden, and that's interesting because last week, Sister Lorez, when you gave us the challenge, Sister Faith, and I said back in the chest, Sister Faith said, Sister Lorez said, you're going somewhere. So we're going somewhere, but you sometimes you get you like, wait, where am I going? So how do we maintain peace with ourselves and really maintain in attunement with Allah when there's an adjustment?
I think, and there are always adjustments. I think it's our how we handle the adjustment. Um, and that doesn't mean that we're not going to react. We're definitely going to react to it. Um, and I had my own personal situation. I thought, that I had received something from Allah and that it was going to go one way. And it turned out that it was going to go a different way. It wasn't what I expected. But I know that Allah is in control. and there's nothing that I can do about it anyway. So I think it's just how we react to the adjustments and how we receive them. They're all blessings to me. Whether it was something that, we expected or didn't expect. So that's how I see that.
Yes, ma'am, Sister Faith.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm on the same page as Sister Lorez when it comes to that. I think it's more so about how we view the situation, and instead of immediately getting angry or frustrated, like look at it in a positive way or in a positive light, and try to re how can I say it like re instead of speaking of the situation or whatever the adjustment is, instead of speaking about it or speaking on it from a negative place, flip it and make it positive, or word it in a way that where you can see some positivity in it. Am I making sense? Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
Yes, ma'am, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not always easy to do, but
Right.
but it makes life easier. So it may not
Right.
be easy to respond or to have a positive thought, but it will bring so much more peace. So it definitely makes sense to me. Um, it's it's like easier to be emotional
Mm-hmm.
because we are still God's children, striving to be a reflection of Him. But mentally, spiritually, and even physically, and emotionally, because of what is but the physical part, because what's gonna happen to our physical bodies, it will make life easier. Um, for me, I would say I really strive my best, but then it's like it gets to a point where I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Okay, a lie, but okay. I was trying to be patient. I was trying to be positive, but your daughter can't take no more. Can't take no more. So I'm striving to not get to that point, because a lie gets you to the point of like when you finally feel like everything is in the clear and like you done went through all of the tests, another test is coming. You got to know.
Right.
You got to know. So I'm really striving to get to the point where I could just be like, okay, Allah, because the word that Sister Lorez used was control. Like just really having to release control. And I honestly didn't think that I was a person who wanted so much control, but I'm just learning more and more every day that I do like to be in control of things, but I don't like to be in control of everything. And I really wish that I didn't always feel like I have to be in control. So it's something that I need to check about myself in that area. Um, yeah, I just need to analyze and figure out how to not feel like, because control comes from a place of like feeling like you're gonna have everything taken from you, or feeling like you don't have support. And I'm pretty sure it comes from other areas, but I think that's where um, that's where I lose the peace, because I'm trying to control something. I'm trying to control a situation. But yeah, anything else anybody else want to add?
I would like to add too that I don't want it to seem like we're not able to have any kind of emotion at all to a situation that comes up. Of course, we're going to feel a certain kind of way because we're human. But as long as we don't allow that to control us, to make us go off the deep end, and 9 times out of 10 is such a small thing, that we can sometimes turn into something bigger than what it really is. So I just wanted to add that to it.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I thought Sister Faith was gonna say something. But okay, thank you, Sister Faith, for the adjustment. And now we go back to come on, sis.
All righty now. So this question that I have came from a reading from Naturally Beautiful, even though we aren't discussing it, but this is still my question for Come On Sis. Now, Sister Dr. Ava mentions on page 104 that we are very sweet by nature and we must fight the gravitational pull of negativity. So my question is, and this is also in relation to what we were dealing with last week in regards to self-care. So the question is, how are we building our will in order to, one, fight the gravitational pull of not being negative, and to remain consistent, like we've been talking about, and to just to that's it. That's my question. Do y'all want me to repeat the question? Okay. Okay, so how are we building our will in order to fight through not being consistent?
So that's that's a little difficult from well, that's very difficult for me right about now. Um because I have so many different moving pieces. Part One of the biggest areas that I need to be consistent is, which is pretty much going to lead into the self-care, but um is being active on social media so I can get to where I need to be, because part of being a doula in this time, you don't go to the hospital, you're not going to workshops, you're not doing that like what you would have done in the past. You have to actively now be on social media to get clients, and or just to be speaking to mommies. So um building my will in that space is like, I just don't care to be on social media like that. I just really do not care to do that. So building my will in that area is like, okay, Allah, what do you want me to say? Because I'm also not a person who just wants to talk. Yes, I have plenty of topics that I could talk about, but it don't mean it's the right time to be talking about them. So I really don't know how to build my will in that area. I've even tried to work with a sister to do that, but we not really we don't. There's nothing wrong with us two. It's just we're not seeing eye to eye in this area, and that's fine. And so I thought that could necessarily help, can be an avenue to help the both of us. Um, so I just don't know in this specific area. In other areas, I would just say it just depends. To me, it just really depends on what the area is to build the will. Cause like if I'm talking about marriage, like okay, I'm gonna build the will because I done made a commitment to Allah, and because this is important. So I think it also depends on what it is. Not to say that the doula work isn't important. It's just like, what do you want me to say today, Allah, and then tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am. Sister Lorraine, did you want to respond?
I'll try. I do not have my Naturally Beautiful book with me, but Dr. Ava, she spoke about, I believe it was, and it might not even been in that book, but um I think being able to, you said, how do you build your will?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think that you first have to understand your will and where it comes from, because it's definitely connected to Allah. Um, and knowing that, because that's always in my head, desire feeds the will, desire feeds the will, desire feeds the will. So then that makes me think about, what is my desire? And like Sister Destiny was saying, she has a desire to be proactive with her doula business, but the way that things have transitioned into everything being on social media, that's just not where her desire is, if I'm not
Correct.
saying that. Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
So then you have to think about, well, what is Allah's will for me with this that I have? Because it is his will, that we even have any kind of will or anything that we want to do, any kind of thoughts. Um, so I think it just boils down for now anyway, because I really can't go into that. It's so heavy and so deep. That understanding Allah's will and how it manifests in our life, because we are to do his will and not our own. So how do we know what his will is for us? And now I'll stop there, because I'll just keep going on trying to analyze that question, Sister Faye.
Yes, ma'am. Something that you mentioned is something that I've actually wondered about for a while, and this is kind of off topic, but how do we know what Allah's will is for us? That's something, man, that is a really beautiful question, because I believe it's really layered, and depending on where we are in life, we can believe that Allah wants something for us that he really does not want for us. At least that's what I think. But did you want to actually go more into that? Because that's, oh, we can save that for another time. It's up to y'all, but that's a really good question. I really like that question.
Sister Larissa, did you have something you wanted to say before I speak?
No, ma'am, you can go right ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it goes back to Sister Loretta's initial question about being in tune with Allah, because that's my exact point about social media. To me, I prefer to be, and it's not even really a preference. I really think this is just how Allah made me. So it's not even like I'm trying to be resistant or trying to like fight something that I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I genuinely like to build relationships with people and go after connections. I don't desire to be everybody doula. I can't be everybody doula. I desire to be a doula or support for any mother who there's a true connection with, that I know I can help, because I'm not for everybody. Sometimes I talk to mommies and I be like, you should be talking to this person that I know, because it's just the energy and what you need and all of that. And so I think being in tune with Allah is really important with that, and knowing who you are. I'm sitting on Clubhouse. Oh my gosh, I've been on Clubhouse all day. It's been so beautiful to just listen to the believers. It really has. I literally went to sleep with Clubhouse. I don't go to sleep with stuff in my ear unless it's the minister, but that's why I went to sleep with it in my ear, because Brother Ben had the minister playing, lectures playing for hours. So I went to sleep to it. And then I woke up right when he was transitioning. He was like, okay, we're going to get into some testimonies and questions. And that was perfect because I don't like to sleep, I don't like to be in my subconscious with people talking. And so, anywho, I'm saying that to say, I I think you have to know who you are, because that's what I was gonna get into. After Brother Ben ended, I was in male and female relationships, and they called it like trivia or something like that. But there's all these questions that people had, but at the end of the day, and had in relationship to like, what if I'm looking for this type of woman, da 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 da. And then it even got into finances, just all these different topics. But at the end of the day, most of it went to, you have to know who you are. And a lot of us don't know who we are. And so, and we talked about that in the previous episode. So, like, if you don't know who you are, then you can't understand your desire, which leaves us feeling blank or empty about Allah's will for us. And I do think that Allah's will for me is to, one of the things is to be a doula, but I have to understand how he wants me to do it right now. And I have part of the assignment for right now, but I don't understand outside of that what else, because there's something else I know that I should be doing. But right now, all it looks like is social media. So that means that I need to get more quiet so I can understand what that means. And more quiet probably means that I need to be more off Clubhouse, because like I said, I was on Clubhouse all day. But I was really enjoying the time with the believers, because I'm telling you, it was so positive. But anywho, I hope that answers part of the question, because I'm pretty sure there's way much more out there. But just in short, um, really knowing who you are, and doing your best to stay in tune with Allah, which means that you're staying in tune with self.
I also, what you said, Sister Destiny, is important too. We have to know um, when we've come to a point where we need to just be silent and wait for Allah. I don't want to say that I hear his voice, but I can feel his
Or you can
spirit
hear his voice.
directing me.
Don't
Well,
let people
I don't.
turn you off.
Well, I don't mean. Well, okay, because people get spooky, and I don't want it to seem like I'm talking spooky or at the side of my neck, because Allah talks to me. I don't know what kind of communication he had with anybody else, but he talks to me. So when he tells me what he wants me to do, I add to it. And I'm learning not to do that. And so I have to ask him, okay, so what else am I supposed to do? Is this it? And I think we had talked about that once before. First you got to finish step one. And, we can't be so quick to try and control, if that's a good word, his will in our life. So I'll leave it at that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you both for that. Yeah, that's something that's going to be on me for a while. But did you all have anything else you wanted to add before we move right into our update from last week?
No, but did you answer the question?
No, ma'am. She did not.
I didn't. I didn't answer the question. I actually I don't know. It's I don't know. That's something that I really need to think more about. I can't answer it right now. Sorry. Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, I think Sister Faith, you asked the question because you didn't know.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So I'll think about that more. But moving along into our self-care, this is making me laugh because it last week was really funny, and when it came to the self-care and how we were talking about the whole thing. But who wants to jump first into their update from last week? Sister Destiny, I would like for you to go first, because when we asked the question, it says you just went all the way back in your chair and you was like, but whoever wants to go first. Sister Destiny, we can't hear you, baby. I'm sorry. I mean, sis, we can't hear you. I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Yep.
Okay. Sorry. My apologies. So, Sister Faith, you and the baby, me and the girl, honey. A lot still working on us. So, when you brought this up last week, in the ABS tribe, or for anybody who's in either digital real estate or ABS tribe, for brother Ben's class, digital real estate class, he has the Facebook group, and whatever class you're in, you get to be in the Facebook group. So they put out a challenge about going live 3 times a week. And I'm like, what am I going to say? I mean, not 3 times a week. Going live every day, 3 times a day. So your eyes got big the first time, but no. 3 times every day for 30 days. And I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And in my head, and what I know to be true, is that I'm supposed to be going live. But who's to say I'm supposed to go live every day? And then who's to say I'm supposed to go live 3 times a day? So I had been battling with that. But when you were speaking, I felt like, okay, I need to go live. So the very next day, last Friday, I did go live. But I am a person, and this has to do with what we was just talking about. I am a person who genuinely moves off the spirit. And I feel like Sister Lorez talks about this all the time. Like, I'm not going to move unless I genuinely feel like Allah has told me to do this. Otherwise, we and I personally can make a lot of mistakes. And this just not a lot of time to be talking. So we got to get our words. We got to get our words right. And it's not even about like just getting our words right, but we are sheltering in place, and I think that we just take that as we not going to the mosque or we not doing the typical things that we were doing. But sheltering in place is also means that you should be making a huge transformation in your life. And so for me, Sister Faith, I was taking it as, okay, I'm going to do my best to be more present on social media. Now I feel like I'm getting some more instructions. This is why it's important to just follow, be obedient when you get something, because you do get more instructions. So I felt like, so I did go live, and I didn't focus the discussion on being a doula. I focused it on a topic that Allah had gave me a few months ago about are they using you or is God using you? And I have a bunch of those things that Allah has put on my heart, but you know how Allah can give you something, but you know it's not time to say anything. So like I have a bunch of little things like that written down, but it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to do it every day. So my consistency, Sister Faith, was gonna be, okay, I'm gonna go live once every day. But every day I wasn't moved to go live. So now I'm just taking it on, okay, Allah, what do you want me to do today? So Sister Faith, I and Sister Lorez, because going to back to both of y'all questions, I'm just really striving to understand, what does Allah want me to do in this moment? And consistency doesn't mean that it's the same thing every day. Consistency doesn't mean that you do this same thing. It just means sometimes it could mean that consistency is being obedient and following what Allah told you to do today. So that also shift my thinking from the conversation that we had last week. I was just thinking, okay, this means I'm about to go live every day. So I'm still learning, Sister Faith, exactly what I need to do. And give it another week or so, I will be sharing part of my assignment with you two in our reflection episode, which will also help to elaborate on some of my mistakes that I have made while we've been recording, and some of my mistakes I have made while we have not been recording. So it will be some light shedding, but it will also make sense to why I'm not clear on exactly everything that I'm supposed to be doing right now. So anywho, that was a long-winded answer, but I'm still trying to figure it out, Sister Faye.
Thank you, Sister Destiny, and I appreciate your honesty, darling. Sister Lorez, I'm sorry, Sister Lorez, did you want to answer the question?
And I'm so bad with this. We had homework
We did have
And
homework.
my yes, ma'am, and my mind be on like 20 other things.
Yes, ma'am.
And we were talking about being consistent, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so um, I, like Sister Destiny, don't believe that it's, that one thing that you're being consistent in, um, except for waiting for guidance and understanding from Allah. And I've been consistent with that obedience and just being patient. Um, I'm not. I don't know. I don't think I really have a response
That's
on that.
fine.
Being consistent. I mean, just being consistent with being obedient, because things are constantly changing for me, and I think I'm just making sure I pay attention to what's going on, because sometimes we can miss what Allah is trying to show us. So I'm just trying to really stay quiet, because there's really not much that I'm a part of, and sometimes things can be presented to you as if you were part of it. And so I'm just learning to be still, be quiet, and not take on stuff that don't belong to me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you also for answering. So for me, I've been consistent in checking myself. And what I mean by that is when I find myself thinking of something negative, or for this week, what I've been doing, when I find myself thinking of something negative, or I see myself going down that negative lane, I'm just like, no, why am I thinking like this? Or I'll just say something like, okay, nope, I'm not about to think about this. And I'll just start saying Fajr prayer in my head, because just to get it out of my head. But that's what I have been doing. And I really think that reading, because I fell off from reading, y'all, and I'm not proud of that, but I've been picking it up. And once I'm like fully engaged and engulfed in the book, like it's like hard for me to put it down. So y'all know I've been reading, I picked back up The Mastery of Self, and like I'm almost done with it, so I had to put it down. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm almost done. But that book, I would this is the book right here. We can put it in the description box, but I really think that that book, like everybody should read that book if you're on a course of just like trying to better yourself, or change certain habits, break certain habits, understand yourself and things like that. So that's what I did this week. I was reading a lot and just making sure I'm analyzing myself and being honest with myself, praying in my head when I'm thinking some things that I don't want to think, because I want to break that habit of allowing it to be so easy for me to just go down this dark path and things like that. So inshallah, next week, oh my gosh, this year went by so fast, but inshallah, next week I'll be able to share more, and I will be further along in that journey, or in that way of life that I'm striving to live. So yeah, that's it for me. Does anybody else have any comments or anything they want to add?
I just really like that. So even if we don't continue that on this on the podcast, amongst the three of us, I think that would be a good question to ask. Just like, okay, what have you tried to be consistent in this week? Because even if consistency looks different in different areas, but it helps us to hold ourselves accountable. And sometimes if you don't have somebody asking you that, you're not really gonna be accountable. You're not gonna hold yourself accountable. Um, so just I just like it, and I appreciate you bringing that question to us.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll add to Sister Faith, I'm glad you brought up reading, because I think reading is such an important um, aspect in our lives. And I used to be an avid reader as well. And I had actually told myself, once you start reading the book, you're going to complete that book and not pick anything else up until, because I shouldn't be reading two books at once, because my attention is not like that. So I made sure to finish reading Wendy Muhammad's book, The Mind of an Entrepreneur. So I was able to get that done. And now I can go on to pick up something else to read it and then complete it. But I think that's that lifts it does something to you when you can set a goal and complete it. It makes you feel good about yourself, even if it's something just as simple as reading a book. So thank you for mentioning that, Sister Faye.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Sister Destiny, did you want to add anything?
No, I agree. That's it.
All right. So I think this is not even related to what we're talking about, but I would like for us to do a like after we do, well, never mind, because we're doing Naturally Beautiful together, so never mind. But what I was going to say is I would like for us to read a book together, even though we're doing Naturally Beautiful, so that kind of is not relevant. But okay, so then I guess that's it. Wow, this episode really went by quickly. I think our next episode is going to be much longer because we have a lot of reflecting to do. And I know I have a lot to share. But if no one else has anything to add, this is episode 14. Wow. Episode 14. Okay. Well, we would like to thank you all for listening to episode 14 of Black Tea. And inshallah, we will see you all next week. Thank you so much for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Walaikum
salam.
salam.